Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Jerry Hamilton. We're going to talk Texas A&M recruiting visitors, also with a week to go until the signing period. We'll be in the thick of it at this time next week. What's left on board for the Longhorns, and where do the Longhorns need to shore some things up before they get to next Wednesday? Jerry, before we do anything else, let's let everybody know about our good friends over at Hayes City Store, who's sponsoring this edition of On Texas Football.
Man, great food, great place to hang out. Cool environment, but there is more. Let me just say that, but that's enough to sell you to go anyways. There are very few restaurants that once you go to, you immediately know they're just special. Hayes City Store is that place for me. It's scratch-made Texas comfort food. They've got their famous truck stop enchiladas, award-winning chicken fried steak, homemade desserts. All of it is absolutely delicious, and all of it's from scratch. They also have live music 6 nights a week with 50 beer taps, ice-cold long necks, and tasty margaritas. That all sounds like an amazing place to be. There's also 13 TVs alone in their ice house, perfect for game watching days. And they even have brunch served from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. every single Sunday. Hayes City Store is also dog friendly, and they have a tree net for kids. Join the folks out at Hayes City Store and bring your entire crew. For more information, check out the website at HayesCityStoreTX.com. Hayes City Store, it's uniquely Texas.
Jerry, for all the reasons we talked about going into this weekend, we got Thanksgiving holiday. A lot of recruits are still in the Texas high school football playoffs. Not as big of a visit weekend as the Arkansas game. That's why the staff targeted that weekend. But, Jerry, still, you've got a couple of official visitors, some unofficials, and a pretty big weekend for the class of 2027 this weekend, too.
Yeah, it is. And look, it starts with the official visitors for me. Teray Davis out of Boulder Fairview. He had to bump his official visit back to this weekend because they were in the high school playoffs at Fairview. Their season ended last weekend. So Teray Davis, the UCLA commitment, who is essentially more Washington versus Texas, depending on how this Texas visit goes. He's never been to Texas as a recruit before. He's 6'1", 185, really good playmaker, good hands, good ball skills, very instinctive player. But this is his first visit. We'll see where that goes. We'll talk more about DBs later in the show. Then Charlie Gillette, the recent Texas commit, they also had their season playoffs ended last week. That's why he had to bump his official visit to this weekend. He'll be in Austin as well, 6'5", 240-pound tight end from Portage Central in Michigan. Portage is just south of Kalamazoo. Then there'll be a few commitments on hand as well. Diabell, Jet Walker, Nicholas Robertson, Yaheem Riley. There's a few others, but there's 9 Texas commitments playing in playoff games today or tomorrow. So even that committed list is going to be a little light on the Thanksgiving weekend. But on 2027, Jeremiah Douglas is one guy I want to highlight because he's not a guy that's talked about a lot. He's the junior receiver from Crandall, Texas, just southeast of Dallas. But he's a guy that Chris Jackson has really liked since he saw him last spring. He's a big guy in the return game, really strong hands, a lot of physical upside, about 6 foot, 6'1", 180. I was by the school in October. Very talented junior wide receiver. He recently put out a top 5 of Texas, Vanderbilt, Kansas State, SMU, and Kansas. Oklahoma's also recruiting him. A&M's recruiting him. But he's going to be in town today. I think Chris Jackson has done a good job in that recruitment. He's in touch with him on a weekly basis. And a guy that Texas really likes, and a kid that likes Texas quite a bit right now as well. So Jeremiah Douglas is one of those 27s I wanted to highlight. And while we watch more on him, a couple other receivers, Aiden Starling out of Shadow Creek is scheduled to be in. Trey Moore that makes the short trip from Pflugerville Weiss. This will probably be his 3rd or 4th home game this year. Cameron Hall, edge out of Mansfield Summit, who really likes the horns early on. Mansfield Summit's put out some really talented D linemen in recent years. Hall is next in line there. Caden Scott, the offensive tackle from San Antonio Roosevelt. Braylon Williams, the 4-star linebacker from Arlington Lamar. And a couple of corners that I think are key here. Blake Jenkins, who was offered a few weeks ago to Katie Tompkins. He's a guy who's very talented, had a really big junior year. Blake Jenkins will be on campus today. And then Carnell Greedy James from Manville High in the Alvin area kind of bumps up against Fort Bend ISD. He's scheduled to be in. There'll be a few more 2027s that Texas hasn't offered yet. A couple of 2028s. Micah Rhodes, the running back from Klein Oak, who's very talented, one of the best in the country. Kingston Rogers, an edge out of Royce City, who's got a chance to be a really good player. So, and that list will grow as it gets closer to kickoff. And there'll be some other big name guys that'll pop up at the game, that'll show up at the game, a couple that may fall off and not end up coming to the game. So we'll see how many of those guys show up. But Teray Davis, the official visit's a big one in 2026. And then obviously Jeremiah Douglas, who's not talked about a lot in this 27 class out of Crandall, but a guy for Texas fans to get familiar with.
Jerry, let's go back to the 2026s as we're here. We're at the end of the 2026 recruiting cycle, just for the by and large. Let's go to the offensive line for Texas, because Texas, we know, still pushing for Malachi Lee. We know SMU's been trying to get Max Wright to flip. Jerry, as we sit here days before the signing period, let's take stock of where Texas is on that offensive line.
Max Wright, we'll start with him. We'll see what happens there. SMU's made a really big push. They got him on campus twice in November, which is normally a good sign, because, look, Texas has had Jamarian Carlton on campus twice in November. So that makes the other schools nervous. Vodney Cleveland, we'll talk about him in a second, being on campus twice at North Carolina. But on the offensive line, Max Wright is a battle there with SMU. Malachi Lee, Texas has not given up on. They've been in contact with him all season. Nothing has changed there. We'll be following him until signing day, which is the early signing period, which begins next Wednesday. Then there's Bryson Martinez, the LSU commit out of East Ascension in Louisiana. Texas is giving it their best run. What does Lane Kiffin announce the day after the Egg Bowl? If he announces he's staying at Ole Miss, then LSU's they've built up a lot of hype around that. Then what do these kids committed to LSU do? They have a decision to make. He's an early high school graduate. He really likes Texas. He's been to Texas twice in November, once unofficially, and then they liked it enough where they came back for an official visit. Bryson Martinez and his mom, and he's 6'6", 307, looks like he weighs 285, high upside offensive tackle that played tight end, offensive line, defensive line, up back and on punt team, wildcat quarterback in the goal line, flexed out to an outside receiver once this year in the goal line. I mean, he is a very talented athlete. So there's 3 offensive linemen. They would like to sign 5. If it's the right 4, they're okay with that as well.
Jerry, you mentioned him, so let's just go ahead and talk about Vodney Cleveland and the defensive line. North Carolina has been trying really hard to flip him. Texas overall probably has to feel good about what they've got. They've held off, Ole Miss and Auburn for Corey Wells. Where's that defensive line class right now?
Yeah, James Johnson was on campus last weekend. Texas feeling good about him. Corey Wells, they withstood the Auburn storm. We'll see if Auburn, if they have enough time to make a run when they hire their new coach before signing day, but Texas has done a good job with Corey Wells. Vodney Cleveland, I think, he's been on campus in North Carolina twice this season. And if I was placing odds on, I'd be over 50-50 right now that he flips to North Carolina on signing day or before. So I think North Carolina's put everything they can into this recruitment late. And I think Vodney Cleveland's shown some signs to me and some other people that behind the scenes that North Carolina has more than a puncher's chance in this recruitment right now. Texas still after Richard Anderson, the LSU commit out of Edna Carr. I think that one is in the balance. I think there's some – I think getting him from LSU is tough in this sense that I think there's so much LSU in his community on one side of his family that just likes the idea of him being at LSU, likes the idea of him being an hour away. And there's a lot of LSU love around that recruitment. So I think that one's tough, but Texas is giving it their best swing right now, and we'll see where it ends up. Then there's Kendall Gerville, the Florida commit, who Texas finished second on. They continued chasing Gerville most of the season, but in the recent weeks, that one just hasn't continued to move in a positive direction. So there's a chance that Texas could sign 2 defensive tackles come Wednesday, 3. I don't see 4 right now. And I think they're okay with that because I do think they feel like they have a need over the ball in the portal.
Yeah, Jerry, that's where I was going to go. We've talked a lot about that if they're going portal for defensive tackle, that's probably where it is. But do you feel like some of the young guys they've got in the program, Myron Charles redshirted this year, Josiah Sharma redshirted, you can go on down the line, even if some guys do leave, if Hero Canoe, for example, decides not to take that last year of eligibility, do you feel like that over the ball piece is what they'll need, or might they look for another tackle in the portal?
Well, if Hero Canoe opted to go pro, and from what we heard this morning, he has not made a decision on that. His entire family is in Austin right now, so that's why he's walking as a senior. But that does not mean he's absolutely gone. I think there's still a decision to be made there, a few days after the end of the regular season. But if he leaves, then the number is definitely 2 in the portal. I think they need over the ball player and a versatile guy. But look, I think Justice Terry will play a lot more snaps on the defensive interior next year when he's 290, 295 pounds. Because then he's a jumbo athlete playing on the interior as a pass rusher guy and a disruptor. And he really started to show some signs late in the year. He's really coming on the last month of the season, played really well against Georgia. So I kind of start to factor him more into interior D-line than I did earlier this year when he was still gaining weight, maintaining weight, and really learning the position.
And by the way, I'll mention it real quick with Hero Canoe. You'll see some other guys that have that last year of eligibility left that may walk for senior day. Sark is always taking the approach, hey, better be safe than sorry. If you think this might be it, he's got no problem with guys going through it, even if they, Jordan Whittington's a guy that did 2 senior days, for example. So Stark just wants to make sure the guys get their senior day in if this might be it. So that's something to follow away. Jerry, let's group edge and linebacker together because Kostiuk Pollock could be a guy that's either or at the end of the day. We know Richard Wesley's there. But Rocky Cummings is the linebacker that they wanted. They evaluated a lot of different guys. Everything kind of fell into place with him. Do you feel like for edge and linebacker that they're good right now?
I think Jamarian Carlton's still in play for Texas, but he kind of comes in as if Texas can flip him from Baylor, he kind of would come in as a Justice Terry of sorts, that he may play some 5, but long-term his frame almost is moving to that combo to interior guy. I mean, he's gained 60 pounds in high school. Yeah. I mean, he's well on his way to 290 on that frame because he's got such long arms. So while he might be deemed an edge if he were to flip from Baylor to Texas, but there's also the possibility he just becomes a swing guy, like a Hero Canoe or like a Justice Terry. So I think that'll be interesting to see on Jamarian Carlton. But outside of that, there hasn't been enough movement behind the scenes on anybody else for us to really go there at edge.
Jerry, then we got the secondary. You mentioned Teray Davis earlier taking the official visit. Josiah Vilmel was on campus for the Arkansas game. What does the 30,000-foot view for you look like with the Texas secondary?
Well, it's always interesting on the guys you get in late on, right? And you like the tape, you like the player, have some conversations, like those guys, bring them in for an OV, and then you get to the NIL discussion because you have to get to the NIL discussion earlier on kids you offer late. You don't have as much time to go through that process. And then that's where there can be some snags on what are some of the other programs offered? What are they wanting from an NIL standpoint? And how do you see that value matching up? So I think Josiah Vilmel really likes Texas. I'm not sure they are in the same place in that regard. He's at Kansas State in terms of an NIL regard. He's at Kansas State this weekend for an OV. He's already visited Arizona State, Baylor, and Arizona. So we'll see where that goes. But headed into the visit, we really like Texas' chances. Now, post-visit, we're like, up in the air. So we'll see what happens there. Teray Davis, obviously, we'll see what happens with the visit this weekend because, again, it's a guy that Texas loves to tape. They've had multiple conversations with him, people around him. But now it kind of gets to the nitty-gritty on the late OVs. So we'll see where things fall. But Texas would love to get at least one more defensive back out of this class, but they will definitely be portal shopping, and it could be at corner and safety, or it could just be one of those spots. I think the signing day will prove big in that regard.
Jerry, I want to close on this because, hey, we could be sitting here next year dealing with a different portal window and a different set of circumstances. But as it stands right now, you got signing day coming up this week. Then you have the portal window in January. For me, this is kind of starting to feel almost like men's basketball or baseball, where if you're not the team in the case of basketball or baseball that makes the deep tournament run, or in case you're a team like Texas, it's probably not going to be in the CFP, it may benefit you more just in terms of your roster building for 26 to have this window to do it while other teams are focused on the playoff. That may be the case, Jerry. It may not be. And Texas, maybe taking the right approach, just focusing on, roster building with the portal and finishing off 26 rather than focusing on 2027 recruits. I don't know what the answer is, Jerry, but I'm fascinated to see what the strategy is for Sark and company and if they can benefit from this.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fascinating for sure because, look, the portal window is just ridiculous right now. And look, life's not fair, but if you're in the college football playoff now, there's only one portal window. There is no chance you should actually have to be dealing with having conversations with your players about coming back or not while you're trying to win a national championship,
Right.
and then have the portal on top of it and be dealing with agents half the day or 3/4 of the day for some of the people in your office while you're in a college football playoff. Just make that make sense to anybody. It can't. You simply can't do it. Same with basketball. It's a joke. And they're going to have to change this window at some point. But yeah, I mean, look, you always want to be in the college football playoff.
No doubt.
If by chance you don't have that season you're expecting, then you better have a great plan in the portal, because you definitely have an advantage, Jeff. You definitely have an advantage in the portal. If you're not in the college football playoff, it's just like the NCAA basketball tournament. If you're not, you saw what happened. Maurice Odom went off against Texas, Arizona State point guard. Arizona State got that wrapped up like that when he was coming out, when he hit the portal out of Pepperdine. Teams in the tournament, they never had a chance to get him on campus. That thing was done.
Yeah, no doubt. A massive offseason coming up for Sark and company. A lot of decisions to make and a lot of potentially a lot of holes to fill on this roster. We'll see what attrition looks like in the coming weeks. It's going to be fascinating. And I can't believe signing day is already here, but it's here. Jerry, thank you for the knowledge and expertise as always. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thank you to our friends over at Hayes City Store for sponsoring it. Just want to remind you, if you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, that's all right. You can get over to the site right now and sign up using the promo code OTFOG, and that'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $39.95. Make sure that you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or on the site, you're not missing any of our recruiting coverage all year round. For Jerry, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, welcome.